With us now, NBC News correspondent Garrett Haake with Senator Vance in Shelby Township, Michigan, and Mark Short, former chief of staff to Vice President Mike Pence. So, Garrett, what did we hear from Vance this morning?
Well, Jose, this event just concluded a short time ago. You can see I'm actually standing in front of a police station. There was a heavy focus here on law and order issues, really kind of the bread and butter campaign issues that the Trump campaign likes to talk about, immigration and how it's related to crime. Vance hit those points on the nose. Then he took a number of questions from reporters that covered the gamut, everything from the campaign's reaction to the vice presidential running mate pick from Kamala Harris yesterday to defending the comments that Donald Trump made on stage at the NABJ last week. And he took a question about Tim Walz that he used to pivot to what I think is going to become an increasing attack line from the Trump campaign, criticizing Walz, who've served for decades in the National Guard, for retiring from the Guard before his unit was deployed to Iraq. Here's what Vance said about that just a few moments ago.
Well, I wonder, Tim Walz, when were you ever in war? What was this weapon that you carried into war, given that you abandoned your unit right before they went to Iraq, and he has not spent a day in a combat zone? What bothers me about Tim Walz is the stolen valor garbage. Do not pretend to be something that you're not.
Now, the Republican ticket has just sort of started rolling out this attack this morning, Jose, but I would not be surprised if we don't hear it amplified significantly by other Republican veterans. Of course, J.D. Vance served in the Marines, other Republican lawmakers, to try to take what is a strength, at least on paper, of the running mate Tim Walz and turn it into a weakness by getting folks to talk about his military service, not in an admiring way, but to question why he wasn't deployed overseas into an actual war zone.
Mark, what do you think of that line of criticism against the governor of Minnesota?
Well, look, J.D. Vance served in the Marines. I think he's entitled to make that attack. But I do think that in the last 3 weeks, there's obviously been enormous upheaval in all of this and in the polls. But prior to Biden withdrawing, I think one of the biggest vulnerabilities for Democrats was the border and the economy. And I think that's still the case. And I think that, unfortunately, much of the Trump campaign continues to be personal, whether or not it's questioning Kamala Harris's heritage or this attack or, frankly, going to Georgia and deciding to attack very popular Republican governors. So I think that Harris and Walz have enormous vulnerabilities on their record and some of their very progressive positions they've taken. And I think a policy attack, would be more effective, perhaps, than some of the personal attacks that have been transpiring.
Yeah, I mean, Garrett, Senator Vance's schedule, meanwhile, mirrors kind of that of Vice President Harris and her new running mate. What's the strategy behind this? Are they following each other here?
Yeah, Jose, to Mark's point, I've heard this from so many Republicans practically begging Donald Trump and his campaign to just focus on the policy, that they think there's such fertile ground here to turn off voters in the middle who might not like a more progressive Democratic ticket if they can just stay focused on that issue. That's what Vance was trying to do here today, again, with kind of law and order remarks here in Michigan. He's going to Wisconsin later today, where he's expected to talk about inflation and the economy. This is old-fashioned bracketing. This is a way to, at relatively low cost, force your candidate, your ticket, into the conversation with a special focus on local news. Just for example, at this event here, Vance took perhaps a dozen questions from reporters. He made sure to call on every single local news outlet from here in the Detroit metro area before calling on national news reporters. That's still where most people get their news, even their political news. And to insert yourself into the story in that way on the same day that the top of the other ticket's going to be here, it's good, just cheap, smart, tactical retail politicking.
Yeah, and so, Garrett, this issue that Vance mentioned about what he called stolen valor, that wasn't part of the scripted aspect of this campaign stop? Rather, this was a question that he answered?
Well, it was interesting, Jose. It was a pivot off of a question that he had taken. I think it was a scripted answer in the sense that this was clearly something the Trump campaign had discussed. This was something that Vance wanted to make sure he got out. It wasn't part of his prepared remarks, but he took a question that was tangentially related to Walz and turned it onto this topic very intentionally, trying to get this attack line out there.
So, Mark, is this something that, knowing Donald Trump and the way he campaigns and his, what he says, is there any possibility, you think, that the attacks would be limited going forward on policy versus personal attacks in that political world, Mark?
I think there have been short periods where it's been more disciplined and focused on policy, but it's hard to see that that's been the track record or necessarily forecast that's the way it's going to be for the next 90 days. But I think Garrett's reporting makes the larger point here. You're in an event for law enforcement. I think there's enormous vulnerability for Governor Walz regarding the BLM riots and the chaos that descended on Minneapolis. But instead, the story today will be attacking his service of 24 years in the National Guard. And maybe they have polling that says that's a vulnerability. But to me, it seems like you have a great message on law enforcement and you're stepping on that accidentally.